Now, look, there are ones all the time. We're now calming down, but we're calming down to an exceptionally high level of violent protest action in any event. So we're a bit like the coronavirus pandemic of protest, and except that our troughs show very high levels of infection, and our vaccine, which would be growth, isn't available because it's not around. You describe the checkmate, Dawie, and you do it well, and this is why you're the best economist out there. So many economists I've sat through with on this, and they look at the Treasury and the budget projection, and they say, well, look, they're going to cap the debt, and they're going to keep it there, and they're going to cut this and that. And we've suggested that you don't understand the political consequences. What that means is you will reduce the living standards of 30, 40, 50% of people in the country in the run-up to an election that you can lose. We'll talk about that too. But the government persisted in this austerity drive, and it's crazy stuff. And we have an austerity policy in order to address a budget crisis brought about by hostile policy to investment. Well, that's not, I mean, there's a lot of wastage and corruption and looting and that. But austerity, it is impossible. If the ANC tries this, it will blow up on them. It now has. What happens next is you're going to see a lot of very high intensity protest actions, as you do all the time. Now and again, there will be sparks that detonate big ones. And the big ones will follow the patterns that we started seeing long ago when Mbeki was still around. So it's not, I mean, that nice, neat Mbeki, and it was wonderful, and then Zuma, it was terrible. It doesn't really work. The pattern of the xenophobic riots and violence. When we first saw the first big one, and we started trying to understand what it was, and we looked at all the numbers and things, one thing that's always seems to be around is high food price inflation, which now just, you know, if you sit in one of those very high towers in Sandton where you survey the world, I feel at the end of my institute career, you can say things that you're so far removed from the ground that you've lost touch completely. When food price inflation is high, what happens is a chap who tries to eke out a living on the minimum wage or something desperate actually goes home and has to tell his family, you're not going to get this month what I could bring you last month because it's too expensive. And those kids will look at him, Dawie, you've got children, and they'll say, you know, well, they want this or they're hungry. And what must he do, that guy? And he's the working chap. I mean, he's the chap with a job. Millions of young people trying to look after their families and kids without even a reliable source of income. And then you increase a price of an item. Of course, you're going to get an explosion. If you now exacerbate that by cutting the income in real terms, whether it's through cutting state wages, civil service, or social grants, or even the merry-go-round of tenders and BEE that is really welfare for the well-off. That's sort of what BEE has become, a welfare program for the quite rich. Consequences, you send someone home. Many people, thousands, tens, then hundreds of thousands, who face their families and they can't look after them. Now, what emotions go through a person in that? And you do this year in and year out, and it gets worse year after year. And your response is to build an even bigger welfare program financed by an ever more under pressure budget. It's just stupid, actually. And one day we'll have the very big eruption. Now, I must answer, what is that? I still think politics, like water, finds the line of least resistance. You know, if you've got a flat roof, and it always will leak, because water will find its way. You can do anything you want. Water will come into your house. And politics finds the line of least resistance. As long as we remain a free and open society in the main, I think the inflection point is going to be an election. And what's going to happen sooner than one realizes is on the big screen at that results center of the IEC, you're going to see the ANC and its little flag, and next to it, the number's going to be 40-something. And it's finished. And it doesn't have a majority anymore. That's South Africa's inflection point.